Everyone, welcome to Aussie Footy Chats, episode 3, Rules of Our Game. So today I'm going to go through all the rules that's involved with the AFL, and I'm going to explain. So I'm going to start off as a basic level of understanding, especially for our international audience. So when you can tune into a game of footy, you can have a watch and sort of understand what the rules are, which is very important because a lot of people that sort of watch our game may get a bit confused with so much going on, and it's important that we explain that a bit better. And so when you come here to Australia, or even if you're within Australia and don't quite understand what's happening on the ground and all the rules, I think that's very important. So I'm going to try my best today to explain the rules a basic understanding, and we'll make our way up. I'll get the rule book out from the actual AFL, and also explain the positions on the ground and what sort of players they are and their roles. And yeah, so it's pretty important. I do have a board that has the ground and the shape on it, and quite like a coaching magnet board. So I'll be able to go through that a bit in detail, and I'll draw all the positions up on there. So yeah, so we'll get into it. So the first sort of stuff, I can break it down to a basic level and understanding is we'll start with the game player. So the objective is to score more points than the opposing team by kicking the ball between the goalposts. You can also score by kicking it behind. So the objective is to beat the opponents by outscoring them, which is quite an obvious one. So game duration, so 4 quarters in each game, lasting 20 minutes of playing time with time added on for stoppages and injuries. So an umpire will call time on, and they'll carry it on to time on. So some quarters can go between 25 to 30 minutes, depending on how many stoppages and what's happened and affected the play. Injuries, stretches and that coming out as well onto the ground for injured players. So there's a lot of safety protocols that are followed with that. Teams have 18 players on the field per team. This is very important, 18 players on each side. With 4 on interchange players, and I believe it used to be a sub just this year gone, so you'd have 4 and a sub. A sub is a person who'd come on and replace an injured player, and they no longer can enter the ground once they've been subbed off. But now I believe they're scrapping the sub rule, and they're moving towards 5 on the bench. I personally think 6 on the bench would be better. Adding more, I don't have an issue with that, but it's good that they're moving to the 5. The sub rule wasn't sort of the biggest fan. You'd have younger players making their debut as a sub. They might only play for 20 minutes. They might not even get a game, or play the game, sorry. So scoring a goal equals 6 points. And when the ball is kicked between the 2 large goalposts without being touched by anyone. Can't be touched. It has to come off someone's foot directly. And also has to be below the knee. That's probably the most important one. That's how you score a goal. And so also 1 point for a behind. So when the behind is scored, the ball passes between the large and the small posts, or hits the goalpost. So if it hits the goalpost, it's a behind on the full or bouncing. If it hits the little post on the full, it's out of bounds. So, and then the opposing team kicks the ball back in their defensive half to move it forward towards their end of the ground. So it's quite important. You can only quite sort of see sort of small here with the goals that I've got at the bottom here. That's supposed to be the big post, but I've got that sort of block there, and they're the little posts. So it has to go in between there. So that's just a little quick demonstration there. So players can kick the ball to teammates, and also can score goals and behinds with it. So kicking the ball, that's how you dispose of the ball, and also handballing. So handballing Players can punch the ball to teammates, but cannot throw it. So, and also handballing is a closed fist, just a simple action like this. You can knock it onto your players, but it's not qualified as a handball. But yeah, you cannot throw it, or you can't sort of throw it like a volleyball sort of throw or anything like that. You can palm it like a volleyball, but you can't sort of grab it and sort of throw it like almost like a basketball pass. You sort of can't grab it and throw it. So that's essential, very important. That's what's classed as a throw. And players running with the ball have to bounce it every 15 metres or touch it on the ground. So a bounce, you have possession of the ball, the oval shape. You bounce it like that. It's a bit of a technique. You sort of guide it down. Depending on which hand you are, left or right, your main hand will be the one that's bouncing it. I'm right-handed, so my left hand will just guide it down. And you run it at full tilt, which is very impressive. This guy here, Zach Butters, is a great player who can run at full tilt but still bounce the ball. It's very impressive. A lot of players can do it, but there's some that just look so amazing when they do it and have such skill. So yeah, and you can touch it on the ground. If it's wet, you can actually bend down and just touch it on the ground, and that's classed as a bounce too. So just reading my notes here. Marking: a player can catch a kicked ball. Doesn't matter if it's from an opponent or a teammate. It has to be kicked and in the air, and it has to travel at least 15 metres to be classed as a mark. So once that is classed as a mark, so say my teammate's kicked it to me, or I'm in a defensive part and the opposing team has kicked it, and I mark it on the full, either from a teammate or the opposition. I mark it on the full and it's gone 15 metres. The umpire will call mark and the game will stop, and the opposing player will come to the mark, put his hands up, and you will have the right to kick. So that's very important. And if it's not gone 15 metres, the umpires will call won't be 15 and it'll be play on. So you can get tackled. And so yeah, it's a confusing one, but the ball has to travel 15 metres on the full. It can be kicked from either the opposing team or the teammate. So tackling is an important one of our game, and we have players. So players can tackle their opponents that have possession of the ball to the ground, but must do so below the shoulders and above the knees. So yeah, for me to tackle my opponent, he has to have possession of the ball, and I can tackle him below his shoulders, so it's not high. That'll be classed as high contact. And I can't tackle below his knees because that'll be classed as tripping. And also, you can't do that because it's below the knees, which is a free kick too, because you can't take their legs out. So it's very important. It's very structured. You have to remember that. You can't push a guy in the back either. You can't land in his back. Also, that's a free kick. You can't just pile drive them into their back. So there's somewhat duty of care. Our game is quite tough already. So there's structured rules, so we don't have high contact, which can result in neck injuries and obviously protection of the head to a certain extent. You also, if you have possession of the ball, I can't just put my head down and initiate the contact, because the umpire will call that play on because you're throwing your duty of care out. So you can't just duck into it. You have to protect yourself. But the umpire will protect the ball carrier at all costs, because you have to follow these structured rules, because it's very important. And you learn that from a young age. All the junior players out there learn that it's very important that you don't hit someone high or hurt their neck and etc. So yeah, it's still tough. You can bump. You have to bump below. Obviously, you can't get the contact above the head. You have to bump below. You can't bump them in the back. because that'd be in the back as well. Yeah, so that's probably very important. So you have to have that in mind, and the umpires will call it. They're very fair like that. So free kicks are awarded for infringements such as holding the ball, which is when I tackle my opponent and he doesn't dispose of the ball. That's holding the ball. If the player is on the ground and he drags it back in and he doesn't dispose of it, that's also holding the ball. So and also also tripping someone or high contact or below the knees. So yeah, that's So you have to tackle above the knees, and also contact below the knees will be result in a free kick. We also have 50-metre penalties. On the oval, you can see here, that's the 50-metre mark on the oval. So it's obviously from the goal square there, from the line there, to there it's 50 metres. So you can get a free kick 50 metres on the ground anywhere, depending on the severity of the contact and how malicious it was. If it's very over the top and it will result in a 50-metre free kick. If you're on the mark, if you're an opposing player on the mark and you're putting your hands up and you're established a mark and the free kick's been given or the mark for the other player, he goes back and kick. If your teammate runs through the mark, that's the opposing player, you can't run through the mark. That'll be a 50-metre as well. So you've got to respect the area. It's also, you can't come in within 5 metres of it. So that'll also be a 50-metre free kick. So that's the exclusion zone once someone marks has been awarded a free kick. And so that's very important. So 50 metres are, pretty serious offence in the game. Sometimes, sometimes they can be criticised for giving a weak 50 metres, but generally they're on the mark and they're pretty strict. So they're allowing the opposing team to advance 50 metres closer to their goal. That's why it's called 50 metres. So the umpires and officials that are on the ground, field umpires control the game, awarding free kicks and penalties. So there's 4 umpires each section of ground. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then boundary umpires determine when the ball is out of bounds. So the boundary umpires are the guys that run around on the side. And then they call if the ball's gone out of bounds. Just make that a bit clearer. If it goes outside, obviously the playing field, and etc. And that the one umpire included in that is also off the ground as a spare umpire in case one gets injured. So they only replace one of the players on the umpires on the field if they're injured. So that's included in all the ones that are available to play on the game. And goal umpires signal goals and behinds and keep track of scores. So their goal umpires also sit at each end of the ground. There's only 2. So if I hold this up, there'll be goal umpire up that end, goal umpire at this end. They sort of sit in between the goals, obviously, and they all sit and watch. And back in the day, they used to be just all dressed in white sort of lab coat, you could say, which they probably took it from the science teacher's room back in the day. I'm assuming that's just how it was created. Just a little fun fact. But nowadays they're a bit more colour coordinated, and they tend to be like a green or anything that's matching colours to the players on the field. So that's basically the stuff that I wrote down to start with there. Um, that's the basics of this so far, and we can get into a bit more of the rules. So I'm just gonna get my laptop out because the AFL rules have 72 pages of how the rules are structured from each position on the ground, and sort of everything I went through there, and just in a bit more detail. So I sort of brushed that down a little bit. So I'll just quickly just explain the rules, and we'll run through a few things. So I got my laptop here. So just bear with me as I read some of these, as we just sort of scroll through these, and I'll mention what the important parts. So the AFL has an anti-doping code, as varied from time to time, shall be applied to persons to who these laws apply. So it's like an anti-doping authority, ASADA. So it's sort of similar to USADA in America. Very much the same sort of program. These guys overlook and the controlling body for performance enhancing and drugs and anything that's a banned substance. So that's just something that's applied here. We'll get into the next sort of page, and it's sort of the the players that may have a cut of some kind. There's a blood rule that stops play, and that player now goes off to the ground, since we know that infections can happen from that. So the health of players so this sort of first lot are just sort of a bit about health. The anti-doping code, which is just what I went through. So here's the next sort of rule that's mixed in with it. So all clear or touched, all clear. So the verbal and visual instruction given by a field umpire for the goal umpire to signal a goal or behind. So that's between the umpires and officials. And the attacking team, where the football is in their forward half of the playing surface. And we've gone through the behinds and stuff like that. A boundary line throw-in. So that's when the white line drawn on the ground to identify the playing surface. So the boundary is the outside of the ground. If it's not on the full, it will be thrown in by the boundary umpire. If it's on the full, the boundary umpire will call on the full, and the free kick is awarded to the opposing team because it's been kicked out on the full. It has to be on without bouncing or being touched. So you can be done for charging. The act of player colliding with an opposition player where the amount of physical force used is unreasonable or unnecessary in circumstances. So it can also be irrespective of whether the player has possession of the ball or not. And also the player has to be within 5 meters of the football. So you can, say if someone kicks the ball and you bump them, within the 5 meters of them kicking the ball, it shouldn't be a free kick, but that's a bit of a grey area at the moment. But also you can only bump someone that is within 5 meters of the ball. The umpires are pretty hot on that, which is fair enough. You can't just bump someone you can sort of have a bit of physicality, but I'm talking a full-fledged bump where you bump someone over. You can't do that if you're not 5 meters within the ball. And so that's it. Charging can be if you've bumped someone high, and say if you're knocked out or concussed a player, you will be reported by the umpire. They take that very strict now, and that's fair enough. If it's a dog hit, go on. So that's how I can break it down a bit. So you'll be suspended. You'll be going to the tribunal the following week. The match review panel could come in and give a penalty, or send you straight to the tribunal. That's very important. So yeah, we've gone through a few of these ones with the 50-metre penalties, free kicks, and etc. Handball. There's obviously home and away matches. Both teams are playing home and away. Interchange area is the area marked where the boundary line is through where players may enter and exit the playing surface. It's pretty straightforward. An interchange steward appointed by the controlling body, which is each team has an interchange steward that will facilitate the changes. There's certain rules you have to run through these lines, and also can't have more than 18 on the ground, so one comes off, one comes on, so it's pretty straightforward there. So yeah, we've gone through the tackling. This is an interesting one. Melee. Melee is an incident involving 3 or more players or officials who are grappling, otherwise struggling with one another, which, in the opinion of the field umpire or any other authorised by relevant controlling body, is likely to bring the game of Australian rules in dispute and interest and reputation. So basically, a melee is just a punch, full on bit of a punch on a bit of a bit of this, a bit of that. It can evolve up. It's a bit of a scrap. You can have players tackle each other to the ground. Can result in fines and also suspension if you punch a player, which is not recommended and is against the sort of law of the game. There has been previous years where players have done that, and it's looked down upon. You, like I said before, you'll be sent probably straight to the tribunal and suspended. Rightly so, because we don't stand for that stuff in our game. Our game's very tough enough. You don't need to do cowardly stuff like that. So that's essentially the rule. And out of bounds is where the football passes completely over the boundary line or touches the behind post. So yeah, that's out of bounds. It's essential. So there's a few things here. I'm just going to read through. There's prohibited contact, obviously high and stuff like that. The protected areas, like what I sort of would have said before. For a player bringing the football back into play after a behind. So, a player will kick. If, say, I've kicked it behind, and the players will run the ball sort of out of the goal square. I'll kick out from here. Used to be you had to kick inside the square. Now they've allowed the players to run out without. You just had to kick it to yourself and then run. Now they can just run straight out. They can generally kick up into the sort of midfield, past the 50 and into these areas. I'll explain the players they sort of kick to in a minute. And so there's just those types of things, real basic sort of stuff. A ruck is designed for a player from each team who engages in the initial contest of the football following a bounce or throw up or boundary throwing. So when the umpires, they're now actually scrapped the bounce, so they're just going to throw it straight up. These guys are essentially like your centers. They're in basketball, where the referee will throw the ball up and they'll tap it. We call them ruck. They're the 2 big guys that always start the game off in the middle, tapping it to the midfielders. Essentially, they do that around the ground. So with boundary throwing, with the ball going out of bounds, it has to be touched or bounced before. The umpire will call out of bounds, and then he'll throw it in. That's when they do this big throw like that, and it goes above the head. Pretty straightforward. So the big guys, they just go out the 2 big guys just go at it all day. They sometimes swap with the centre forward or another tall guy in the forward line, and that'll be the second ruck. They're just multiple positions like that, but the second ruck's generally going in to give the ruck a rest. He'll run to the bench for 5 minutes and come back on. It's a pretty hard gig being a ruckman. I did a bit of that growing up. Played alongside some good ruckmans, like Scott Lycett growing up and stuff like that. So I was a forward line player as well. So I'll be explaining positions like that. That's my personal sort of positions. And a shepherd is the act of a player using the body to push or bump or block an opponent who does not have possession of the ball but possession of football and who is no further than 5 meters away from the football. A shepherd is when my teammate might have the ball and he's running with the ball and a guy's coming in to tackle him. I'll come in and give a shepherd to protect my ball carrier and allow him to dispose of the ball, because it's about trying essentially to protect your player. That's what you call a shepherd. So there's the 10 meter center circle. I'll just quickly show you that now. That's this little inner circle in the center. That's where the ruck contest starts. The ball, you have your midfielders that sit in here. There's your ruckman and 3 other midfielders, your centre, ruck rover, and rover. So I have that on the bottom now, you can sort of see. And sort of they sit in the middle. In the start of the game, your 3 guys will sit in, the 3 midfielders will be outside of the centre circle, and the 2 ruckmen will be in there, and the umpire will throw it up in the middle, and they palm the ball down to the midfielders who are trying to get it in their forward line. And vice versa, the other team's trying to do the same thing, but if they don't win the ball, it's trying to stop that and trying to get it into they're both trying to get it into their forward lines. Most important part. That's what starts a game. Once a goal is kicked, they both actually do the same thing. They both come back, all go to the middle, and the ball will be thrown up in the middle after every goal. Behind, they kick it out from here. After a goal, they go to the centre. At the start of every quarter, they'll always go to the centre, and it will start from here, and the game goes from there. I hope I explained that well. It can be a bit confusing. And that's generally, so that's the most important part. That's how a game sort of starts to begin with. I'll explain the roles a bit more in a second. So just scrolling through this a bit. I've gone through a bit of the stuff here. There's just some basic stuff like padding on the goalposts. Here we got the size between the 6.4 meters between each goalpost. So the goal's 6.4 meters. 6.4 meters between the point post and the goalpost. A bit like so. Oh, it's a bit hard to see, but just like here. So there's 6.4 meters between all them. I'll give you the length of the ground from here to here can vary from 135 meters, which is a shorter ground, to 185 meters. Some ovals used to be a bit more bigger. And then I have the width between here and here, which is the fattest part of the oval. That is between 110 meters to 155 meters. I'm not sure what that is in yards. That's for my American audience. I'm not too sure what that's is in yards. But so this center square is 50 by 50 by 50. So just letting you know that the 10 meters inside there. So that's sort of like what it is. The interchange area is like a 15 meter sort of mark on each side for each team. So it's quite a big oval. I believe we'll just go through the circumference of they're generally sort of 500 meters around the full oval. If you did to do all that, my junior oval was 500 meters around the full length. Some are smaller, depending on how wide and how long it is. But it was good because I used to do running, and I'd just do 1 lap would be half a kilometre. Yeah, 2 laps is a full kilometre. So it was very easy for me before that, how everyone has running stuff now. Like you can track all your running and that back before that stuff. That's just how I did it, and I knew I could do so many laps and it equal 3 kilometres for example. And then you do your running and your time trial. That's a separate thing. It is a lot of running. Our game is a very athletic game. So yeah, a football, like I said, the Sharon football that's in our game is 545 millimeters in circumference, and also the standard size of 720 mils, which is yay sort of wide, and it also has a pressure of 69 kPa. So there's a certain amount of pressure they pump up the balls to, and that's the law of our game there of that. And yeah, so we're just going through a bit more here. Yeah, that does cover a lot. Just quickly scroll through. Yeah, I've gone through the protected area, free kicks. So a lot of this is just stuff sort of that I can tie all this in now with the positioning of the ground, and they're just going through the signals. Umpires do a crossover for goal. They'll do 2 flags, or they'll just do the one for a behind. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward. And yeah, there's 72 pages of the rules, and a lot of it's if a player's refusing to leave the ground, or obviously stuff like that, the umpires can award free kicks, or well, they can't send the player off, but they can award free kicks for positioning and that. Like at the start of each quarter, they've got to be in positions. So I'll quickly show that. Just quickly. So we have the ground. This is the full forward. That's generally a tall guy, big strong man, between sort of 194 centimeters, 6'4", to 200 plus centimeters to your 6'10". Can even be taller. Can almost be 7 foot. Darcy from the Bulldogs is a massive man. He does quite well. He also probably plays centre forward, but I'll get to that in a second. And then you have forward pocket. And the other forward pocket. There's 2 forward pockets. Generally, they're your smaller guys. They're generally small, quick, agile players. And when you kick it, say I'm kicking it into the forward line, my idea goal, or any midfielder's idea, would be to kick it into the 50, and they'd love the full forward to mark it, clunk it. He'll go back on his mark, and he'll have a shot at goal, and he'll kick a goal, hopefully. Generally, that's the main objective that you'd want to do. Full forwards always get the nice credit, because that's the position everyone wants to play and kick goals and be the big guy that comes in and kicks the goals. So if he can't mark it, the little 4 pocket guys will come around it. And I'll explain the centre forward and the half forward line have a similar role, but I'll quickly mark them out. So centre forward, half forward flank, and then half forward flank again, and it's either side, right side or left side. They'll mention that. So their role is almost identical to the forward pocket and the full forward and the other full pocket. So the centre forward, they're generally a big athletic guy that can move down the ground. I used to play a bit of that. Used to sort of run down the ground, and they'd go up and try to get leads for the ball coming out from the defensive half from down here. They'll kick up, and generally what they'll do is they'll work really hard and then run back and try to mark the ball. They do so much work. They'll do leads all day. The half forward flank guys, they're essentially the same sort of role that the forward pocket does, but down on the half forward line. They do a lot of hard work to either present and give another lead, or they'll crumb the centre forward. And also, identical sort of stuff, but just in the next tier. So that there is my forward half. And they're the 6 players that present in the forward line. And it's very important. So, the coach will say, you're playing here, you're centre forward today, your job's to run and be a target for your players to kick to. You guys at the half forward flank, you got to get at the crumb of him and try to get possession of the ball, and they'll kick into the forward line. Same sort of thing. Anyone can kick a goal in the field, doesn't matter. You can run from down here in the back line, and if you're lucky enough to get up there, which is pretty rare, you can kick a goal. So there's no rules on who can kick a goal. There's no offside. That's very important. But generally, the midfield, which are in here, which I'll explain in a sec, and their objective, everyone's objective, if it's the half back line, or the full back line, is to run the ball up and get it in the hands of these guys, and they try to kick your score. Sometimes you can have your midfielders rest at the half forward or the forward pocket. Generally a forward pocket, because they're not going to run as much. These guys run hard all day. They present your half forward players and your forward pocket guys will be a pressure sort of players. They'll tackle anyone that's got possession of the ball. Your big guys can still tackle too, but it's generally very impressive and generally a really good trait for your little guys to tackle and put that pressure. So that's important. I'll just put the midfield now. So we'll just sort of, you'll have your ruck in here, that little in there, and then you'll have a centre player there, ruck rover on either side there, and also your rover. So your 3 sort of dots, and you can place yourself anywhere in that, outside of that. This is at the start of the game. You can set up, and these guys will just run all over the ground. The ruckman and the midfielders can be in any place of the ground. I mean, your half forward guys can come down anywhere down the ground as well. There's nowhere you have to sort of sit or stay. But when you start, at the start of every game, you have to be in your set positions. So when the umpire's throwing the ball up in the middle, everyone has to be in their set positions. Once the ball's up in play, everyone can run everywhere. Okay, so it's very important. You also have what you have called wingmen. They're generally a hybrid type player that is like a midfielder, but can have a bit of, can be a athletic, mid-sized player that sort of runs. Their job is to either run to the centre. They have to start there when the ball's thrown up, and then they can run in, or they can control the flanks, and they provide a lot of run up each side. It's very important. They run up and down here all day. They can be in the defense as an extra player. They can come up into the attacking forward line. They provide so much run. They're the guys that you can sort of kick to on the outside. That's very important. And so that's their position and role. Each team has one. Each team has a player in each positions. Doesn't matter if so they have to start there, and then they can move around the ground after that, after the bounce or the throw up in the middle. Now that they got rid of the bounce, so now I'll explain the defensive line. Centre half back. Centre half back. Here, he's generally the tall guy, athletic tall guy, that will play on the opposition centre half forward. Their objective is to play on the opposing centre half forward and stop him. He's not allowed to get a touch. You got to spoil. Spoiling's also another thing I have to mention. And that's where you punch the ball out of your opponent's hands. You can't chop the hands. You can't just punch his hands. You have to make contact with the ball. And also you can mark in front of him. So say the opposing team's got possession of the ball and they're coming down. Your centre half back's the sort of guy that's on the big guy that's leading up and down the ground on the opposing team. And then you got your half-back flanks. So half-back flanks. They're the two guys or girls on this side. And their job is to stop the little guy, which is the half-forward player in the opposing side. They don't want them to get a touch. They stay on them, not let them get a touch. But also, say if the big guy's marked it, it's in our back, and he just kicks it to the little guy, or he handballs the little guy coming along, the half-back, they'll run. They run and carry, so they'll do rebounding 50 kicks. So generally a really good half-back, they'll grab the ball and they'll move. They'll come up the ground. Like Dan Houston's a good one. He's an All-Australian half-back. Half-back flank is the position's name, which is for short, we'll call them half-back at the moment. And they're sort of the guys that will run the ball up and dispose of it back inside. The midfielders come down and try help, but generally the best ball users in the defensive line are your half-backs. And they'll just almost like a quarterback, they'll come and kick. They'll kick long. So they're gonna, if they get possession of the ball here, they're gonna want to try kick long, looking for the centre half forward. He'll come down and he'll run down and be in that sort of spot. They'll kick long into there and they'll try to mark it. And if he doesn't mark it, the half forward guys there, it's pretty hard to see. I'm sorry if it's not the best you can see, but yeah, they come in and they try to sort of bring the ball up forward. So yeah, your halfback guys, they're so important to your team. And also when I look at, and then you got your fullback, which is a big guy, really big guy, strong, and he's got to play on the full forward, which is in the opposing side. So your fullback is a big, strong guy, and his job is to just make sure the full forward does not kick goals, does not even get a mark or a touch. Essentially, that's every job for the defenders, is not let their player get a touch. But being a fullback, it's a very tough role that you don't get many touches and much praise, but your teammates love you because you're stopping the opposing full forward from scoring. And then you got your back pocket on this side and your back pocket here. So I'll just show you that quickly. Back pocket, full back. So your two back pocket players are playing on the small little forward pocket players on the opposing team. So their job is to stop the little guy crumbing the big guy. Their job is to put tackle pressure on the half forward. So if they even get a touch from crumbing the big guy, if he's dropped the mark and he's brought it to ground, their job is to instantly tackle the forward pocket opposing player. So that's, to me, that's probably a very important position. They also carry the ball, and generally they're pretty good ball users, so they'll kick long looking for either the centre back to make lead, or they'll kick long to a ruckman that might be a marking target, or the centre forward, he might come all the way down to present and be a kick to there. And the half forwards can also come down, either crumb or just be another leading target. So the back pocket and your half backs are mainly your ball users out of the defensive 50. And then their job is to carry the ball up or either stop their player. And then you'll have your bench players. There's going to be 5 on the bench. They can be a mixture of players. Some might be an extra midfield type player. You might have an extra ruck on the bench. It depends on what your team has and what they need. Might be another defensive player that they swap out. It could be a hybrid wing type player. So your bench is generally you'll swap some players off. They'll obviously run through the interchange on each side. And so that's each position. I know it's a bit hard to see, and I've sort of not written the most neatest, but so full back, back pocket, half back, centre back, half back, wing, ruck in the middle there, and centre, ruck rover, centre half forward flank, so that's the left half forward flank, right half forward flank, forward pocket, full forward pocket. And then they're the people that are on the ground, and that's their sort of roles and their job. And at the start of the game, they're the only people inside the midfielders, 3 midfielders and ruckman. Outside of that, they'll run all over the ground. They can go anywhere. Boundary throw up could be down here, say the ball's gone out. The umpire throws it in. He'll throw it to the ruckman and the 3 midfielders, and then they'll try. It's in the defensive half, so they're throwing it in there. So the ruckman wants to get it down to the midfielders. He'll grab it, or palm it down, or handball it, and then gives it to the midfielder. He could kick it out to the centre forward, or you could handball it to the half back player. They'll run it up. So the job, and then say we're on the forward line. The rucks come all the way in, or the full forward can do the rucking. That does happen too, because they're the big guy in the forward 50. Generally, the ruckman will always do the rucking outside of the forward 50. And so, anyone can kick a goal. Say the ruckman or the full forwards palmed it down, and a midfielder's got it. He can kick for goal straight away, or if he finds a nice easy target that you generally kick to, you don't get too hungry, what we call hungry. You just pass off to whoever's in the best position to kick the goal. Because anyone can kick the goal, it's important. So that's that's probably that's most of the game there, structured quite well. And it might be a bit confusing. I'm sorry if it's a bit confusing, but it's the best I can sort of explain it, and have a bit of a board here to sort of show. It's quite interesting. Each position and each size of players. So you can see behind me, so most of these guys are probably going to be midfielders. They get the most praise of the game. There's Franklin up there. He's a centre forward, full forward. And generally midfielders are on here. You had guys like Dustin Martin that was a great midfielder, but he could also play half forward or forward pocket, or he could almost play a full forward at one stage. You don't have to be the best or biggest guy. It's just about how you play the position. But generally, the full forward and the full back are always big guys generally. He'd rest up in the forward pocket, and he'd present almost like he was just a great player. Some guys are like that. Horn Francis is probably a bit similar to play in that position. He can play midfield and come up to the half forward or full forward pocket and play that really well. So like guys like that play full forward, generally your big guys, your centre forward, your big athletic guys that probably can do more running down the ground. They're always above 6'4". Your wingmen are good. Your midfielders are your elite runners. They'll run all day, and they'll get you most possessions because they're always amongst where the ball is. Your back pocket and your halfback. Your halfbacks can get a lot of touches of the ball, and then your fullbacks don't get a lot of touches of the ball, but they stop their opponent. And you don't have to be inside the 50-meter mark to kick a goal. You can kick it from outside if you got a long enough kick. Some players have that. Houston, Kane Farrell. There's some guys that have some really long kicks. So that's pretty important. Tex Walker can kick goals outside 50 really well. There's only a handful of players that can do it, and then they can do it basically almost off one step. They're that strong of a kick sometimes. That's generally most of the stuff there. Just trying to think of anything I can cover to add it in, but that's the most important part of our game. Just make sure that the rules are followed. The umpires are pretty strict. Just trying to think of anything I haven't covered. Just with the game itself, it's structured pretty well. Where your protection of the head, you're not allowed to push in the back. You can't duck into a tackle. You won't be rewarded a free kick if you're putting yourself in danger like that, because it's really essentially to make sure you don't do those sort of actions. And so that picture up here is a mark. Nick Ruck going back of the flight and with a courageous mark. One of the strongest marks you can see. Darcy did a similar mark this year for the Western Bulldogs. If you look at Mark of the Year 2025, have a suss of that. That could show you the courage and he's a big guy that's taken a big contested mark, gone at the flight of the footy. That's why generally our full forwards take those sort of big marks, and they're quite exciting. Andrew McLeod, amazing halfback. You can just see the way he has the ball and the way he's running. Great technique, and he'll run off the halfback all day, and he'll just deliver. He has the best kick, one of the best halfbacks ever. He'll just run. You can see he's automatically got the ball in position to run, and either have the bounce or he's looking down the track to maybe hit a target, whether it's the half forward line or the centre forward. Or if he can run far enough, he'll keep running. He'll kick it all the way into the full forward. And so that's each role sort of explained and the rules. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a complicated one. I really made this for people to understand the game, that might not know what our game details are. And just hope you enjoyed this episode. I know a lot of people will know the rules that we live within Australia and follow the sport. So it's really for trying to help international audience and people also that within Australia that don't understand. And I hope I've broken it down a bit easier, that you can switch on a game. The positions of guys or girls who are playing the sport, because there's a women's team and a men's team for the sides now. So it's, with breaking down each of the spots, you can tune it on, and then you can sort of understand what happens when a goal's kicked, the ball comes back to the middle, they reset positions and they go again, or at the start of a quarter. So that's what happens if you see everyone all of a sudden come back in, that's what they're doing. And then play flows from there. all the officials that are involved, and etc. So I really hope you enjoyed this, and really thanks for watching this episode. My next episode, I'll start sort of getting into the trades and free agency, and I'll go through each single club individually, and I'll explain what they've done, what they're looking for, whether they traded draft picks or what players they brought in or who they traded out. And then we'll go from there, from each individual club. We'll go into a draft episodes and talk about the draft and what clubs are looking for, and we'll go from there. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and thank you.